Someone out there is underestimating you right now. They look at your silence and call it weakness. They look at your patience and call it inability. They look at the way you absorb difficulty without breaking, and they mistake your restraint for someone who simply does not have what it takes. They think they have you completely figured out. They think the version of you they see on the surface is the entire story. But you clicked on this video for a reason. Something inside you already knows that the version of you they think they understand is not the version that is coming. Friedrich Nietzsche did not write for the comfortable. He did not write for the people who accept the world as it is handed to them and call that wisdom. He wrote for the ones who are willing to look at reality without flinching, to see people for exactly what they are, and to build a mind so powerful that no one who ever underestimated them gets to do it twice. What I am about to give you are 9 principles drawn from the most precise and ruthless philosophy ever written. This is not about revenge. This is not about anger. This is about transformation. By the end of this video, you will think differently, carry yourself differently, and respond to the people who underestimate you with a calm so absolute it rearranges everything they thought they knew about you. Sit down, lock in, pay attention. Principle number 1, become unreadable. Nietzsche wrote that the higher man conceals himself not out of cowardice, but out of strategy. Right now, the people who underestimate you have one enormous advantage over you. They can see exactly what you are feeling at any given moment. They know when you are hurt because your voice changes. They know when you are angry because your face shows it before your mouth opens. They know when you are desperate because you over-explain yourself and reach for words that should never have been spoken out loud. Every single one of those reactions is information you are handing them completely for free. And free information in the hands of the wrong people becomes a weapon aimed directly at everything you are trying to protect. So starting today, you train yourself to become a wall. Not cold for the sake of coldness, but controlled for the sake of genuine freedom. When someone provokes you, your face remains completely still. When someone tries to pull a reaction from you, you look at them the way a man looks at weather. You acknowledge it exists, but you do not let it change your plans for the day. Because here is what happens when you become truly unreadable. People lose confidence around you. They start second-guessing their own moves. They begin adjusting their behavior because they can no longer predict yours. And that is exactly where your power begins. The moment you become emotionally invisible, you become strategically invincible. No one can manipulate a man they cannot figure out. No one can use against you what you never allowed them to see. Principle number 2. Let them expose themselves. The mistake most people make the moment they realize someone is working against them is that they react immediately. They confront too early. They show everything they know before the right moment arrives. And in doing so, they destroy the single greatest advantage available to them: time. Nietzsche understood that the higher man watches while lesser men act. Because in action, people reveal their true nature, their weaknesses, and the full extent of their desperation. When someone is moving against you, do not rush to stop them. Let them move. Let them speak. Let them execute their entire strategy with full confidence that you are completely unaware. Because here is the truth about what happens when patient people do nothing and wait. Comfortable people get careless. They start talking too much. They start making bold moves because they assume you are asleep. They begin reaching further and further until everything they are doing is visible in broad daylight for you to study and map completely. Nietzsche called this the patience of the higher man. Not passivity, not weakness, predatory patience. The kind that watches and gathers and waits until the exact moment when moving becomes effortless, because the opponent has already done the work of defeating themselves. You do not rush. You do not panic. You simply collect and wait. Principle number 3. Mirror them. Then vanish. This principle operates at the deepest level of human psychology, and when executed with patience, it will leave the people who underestimated you questioning their own understanding of what happened between you. Here is how it works. When someone plays a role around you, you reflect it back to them with perfect precision. You match their energy exactly. If they are warm, you are warm. If they are distant, you are distant. If they give you attention, you return it in equal measure. You become their mirror. And without realizing it, they begin to feel genuinely understood by you. They start to feel connected. They start to believe they have something real with you. And that is exactly where you want them. Because the real weapon here is not the mirror. It is the removal of the mirror. Once they have grown used to your energy and come to depend on the rhythm you created between you, you withdraw it completely without a single word of explanation. No argument, no announcement, no dramatic exit. You simply become unavailable, distant, unreachable. And this is where their mind begins to turn against itself. Nietzsche understood that human beings do not value what they possess. They only truly value what they have lost. When you withdraw your presence from someone who grew comfortable receiving it, you create a vacuum inside their mind that they cannot fill with logic or reasoning. They begin replaying every conversation. They start reaching toward you, not because you asked them to, but because the absence of what they had with you becomes louder than anything you could have ever said to them directly. You do not need to raise your voice when your silence and your disappearance can rearrange someone's entire inner world without a single confrontation. Principle number 4. Control the frame. Control the outcome. Every interaction between human beings takes place inside an invisible structure. The frame is who defines the meaning of what is happening, who holds the power in the room, who is reacting and who is leading. Most people walk through their entire lives completely unconscious of this dynamic. They enter conversations and confrontations without ever realizing that the frame has already been established, and almost never by them. This is precisely why they lose before the exchange even truly begins. When someone underestimates you, the very first thing they do is establish a frame that serves their position. They arrange the narrative so that no matter what you say, you appear to be defending yourself inside a story they already wrote before you walked into the room. And the moment you accept that frame, the moment you begin explaining yourself within their structure, you have surrendered the most important ground in the entire exchange. Nietzsche was absolutely ruthless on this point. Power does not belong to the strongest. Power belongs to the one who defines the terms of the encounter. So you never argue inside a frame that someone else constructed for you. You dismantle the positioning entirely, and replace it with your own. You are not reacting. You are redirecting. You are taking the entire conversation off the battlefield they chose and placing it on ground that you selected. The person who controls the frame controls the emotional direction of every exchange, and the person who controls the emotional direction controls the result every single time. Stop fighting inside structures that other people built specifically to contain you. Build your own frame and make the world come to meet you inside it. Principle number 5. Make your silence louder than their words. There is a weapon that most people are afraid to use because it feels like doing nothing. But in the hands of someone who truly understands power, it is the most devastating instrument in the entire arsenal. That weapon is silence. When someone underestimates you, they are expecting a response. They want you to argue. They want you to explain yourself. They want you to raise your voice so they can point at your reaction and use it as evidence of everything they already decided about you. Every word you give them in that moment is ammunition they will use against you. But silence, real, intentional, unshakable silence, removes all of that ammunition and leaves them standing in front of a fire with nothing left to burn. Nietzsche wrote that the man who speaks constantly is confessing his fears, while the man who chooses silence is demonstrating his strength. When someone attacks you with words and you respond with complete stillness, something shifts in the room that cannot be undone. The attacker suddenly appears desperate. Their words begin echoing back at them with nowhere to land. Anyone watching starts to sense that you are the one in control, and they are the one who needs something from this exchange. You become the mountain. They become the wind, and the mountain does not negotiate with the wind. It simply stands while the wind exhausts itself against it and eventually moves on. Your silence is not surrender. Your silence is a declaration. It says, I see exactly what you are doing, and I have already decided that you are not worth disrupting my peace. Principle number 6. Expose nothing. Study everything. Nietzsche wrote that the higher man is a student of human nature above all things. He watches, he observes, he collects information with patience and precision, and he reveals nothing of himself that could ever become a liability in the wrong hands. Most people are not destroyed by the strength of their enemies. They are destroyed by their own deep need to be understood. They share their plans before they execute them. They expose their vulnerabilities to people who store that information carefully and use it at the most damaging possible moment. So from this moment forward, you operate with a completely different standard in every room you enter. You watch body language. You listen not just to what people say, but to what they carefully choose not to say. You notice who speaks about others behind their backs, because those same mouths carry your name the moment you leave. You track inconsistencies between what people claim and what they actually do. And while you are collecting all of this, you give away absolutely nothing about yourself that could ever become a weapon in someone else's hands. Information is the currency of power. The man who holds the most while revealing the least is always the most dangerous person in any room he enters without ever needing to announce it. Principle number 7. Raise yourself until they cannot afford to ignore you. There is a level of power that has nothing to do with confrontation, retaliation, or any form of direct conflict. It is the kind of power that comes from becoming so exceptionally developed that the people who once dismissed you begin to feel the full weight of that decision in their daily lives. Nietzsche called this the will to power in its highest and most honest expression. Not power over others, but absolute power over yourself, pushed to its furthest possible limit. The real response to being underestimated is not to bring the other person down to a level where you feel better. It is to rise so far above the situation that their original opinion of you becomes a quiet embarrassment they carry with them. So you build in complete silence. You sharpen your skills. You develop your mind with relentless and unbroken discipline. You become someone whose results speak in a voice that requires absolutely no additional explanation from you. And then something begins to happen. The same people who dismissed you start watching you from a distance, with something heavy and unresolved sitting in their chest. They start reaching out with casual messages that barely conceal what they are actually feeling. They begin positioning themselves near you because they have realized that the person they once dismissed has become someone they now genuinely need to know. And at that point, you hold something far more powerful than any form of revenge. You hold the choice of whether they deserve access to who you have become. Your growth is not a message to them. Your growth is a monument to yourself. But the tallest monuments always cast the longest shadows. Principle number 8. Become impossible to predict. Every strategy that has ever been used against you was built on a single foundational assumption: that the person using it knew exactly how you would respond. They underestimated you because they believed they had an accurate and complete model of who you are. They thought they knew your patterns, your reactions, the specific moments where you would break. Every move they made was calculated based on a version of you that they believed they understood completely. So what happens when that version no longer exists? What happens when you become someone they cannot map, cannot calculate, and cannot prepare a strategy against? When they expect anger, you respond with absolute calm that unsettles the entire room. When they expect you to chase you, become completely unavailable. When they expect silence, you speak with a precision so exact and so deliberate that it ends the conversation before it ever finds its footing. This does something permanent to the people who have underestimated you. It collapses their strategy entirely. They cannot plan because they genuinely do not know what you will do next. They begin making mistakes because the mental model they built of you no longer corresponds to any version of you that actually exists. And while they are scrambling to understand who you have become, you are already operating in a space they never knew was available. Predictability is a cage you built for yourself. The man who cannot be anticipated cannot be controlled by anyone. Principle number 9. Build a circle they never saw forming. Nietzsche understood that the higher man does not operate in isolation. He builds his world with deliberate intention and selects who enters it with absolute and uncompromising precision. Most people, when they are being underestimated, make the same critical error. They try to fight it entirely alone. They keep their strategy private and their pain completely personal. They isolate themselves from the very connections that could fundamentally transform their position. This is not strength. This is a tactical error that leaves you more exposed than you realize. The 9th principle is about building a circle so quietly and so carefully that by the time anyone realizes you have one, the ground beneath them has already shifted in ways they cannot reverse. You identify people who operate at the level you are genuinely moving toward, people who share your standards, your discipline, and your commitment to becoming something real. You bring genuine value to their lives, and they bring genuine value to yours. No politics, no transactions dressed as friendship. You simply become someone worth standing beside, and the right people will find their way to you naturally over time. The people who underestimated you assumed you were alone. They assumed their version of events was the only one circulating. But when they look up and realize that the people around them have already been shaped by your character and your integrity, they have nothing left to work with. You never said a single negative word. Your character did all the speaking, and your circle did all the protecting. If these 10 principles reached something real inside you, today drop a comment right now with the words, "I am becoming what they said was impossible." Let that be your declaration. Let that be the exact line you draw between who you were and who you are choosing to become starting from this moment. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because everything that follows on this channel is built specifically for the person you are already in the process of becoming.